gotten used to my office chair. No, not here yet.
Mary, your little box says Jeff Eastburn.
We're playing musical chairs.
I can change it. Hold on.
It's my new identity. I'm down here at the township office and I'm using Jeff's computer.
No, I figured, I know last time you had to like rush in between, so it's probably better off that you're secure in a good place.
There was a cap here a minute ago. I could put it on. You would think I was Jeff.
No, I don't think so.
John, you lost your username. It now says user.
I'll rename him.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
It worked last night, so I'm not sure what happened here.
Yeah, if it worked last night, it should already be set
No,
up.
she renamed you. I'm going to name you now.
Yeah, because I renamed it yesterday and it worked for last night's meeting, but for some reason I couldn't even come on with audio, so I had to go in and out. Now it showed up.
I did that for you, John.
All right.
Every 24 hours, they change the rules on us.
Okay. Let me mute off here.
Donna, is the phone number?
Yes, I can pin her to her video. I think.
You learned a lot yesterday, didn't you, Joan? You got all this
Yes,
down.
I did.
They did a fantastic job. They really, I've never seen a meeting managed so well.
There you go. You're merged.
Thank you.
I'm learning.
What meeting was this, Jim?
The comp plan.
Oh, the comp plan. All right, we're ready to go.
One person coming in. Just wait a minute. Okay. Huh? It's on. Unmute yourself, Mary. You ready?
Started? Okay. All right, I'll call the September 16th, 2020 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. In attendance via Zoom are Chairman Nancy Morris, Supervisors Auerbach, Day, and Gerstenhaber, and McVeigh. Also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson, Township Manager Joe McFall, and Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, and Secretary Mary Opromola. At this point, Chairman Morris would like to make an announcement. It's yours, Nancy.
Oh, me. I think it's Sharon. Yeah, so I wanted to let people know we have a couple important changes coming in our township. First, as you know, we've lost our longtime and truly beloved Secretary Sharon. For many reasons, she accepted a new job. I can speak for everyone in saying we are truly sad to lose her. For 14 years, Sharon has tried to do her best for every resident of the township, and she has succeeded brilliantly. I know Sharon will be successful wherever she goes as she takes on new skills and responsibilities. In the short term, one of our residents, Mary Opamola, agreed to fill in so that she could have time with Sharon to learn what Sharon knew. So they spent a week together. Mary is experienced at handling complex documentation, at improving processes and leading teams. She has experience in computer validation, one of the most challenging areas of IT. Joan and the board will decide how to fill Sharon's role going forward once we know more about what's required. At this time, I'm hoping each board member will help Mary feel welcome. For me personally, it's been a difficult year. I think probably other people can say the same thing. Ongoing health issues have put things in perspective for me. And going forward, Mary McVeigh has been kind enough to take on the chairmanship, and Dave Gerstenhaber will assume the vice chair. Thank you.
Mark, could you please tell us how we do this, how the chair moves from Nancy to me, and then again, the vice chair to Dave?
Thank you, Mary. What would be necessary is what I think I'm hearing from Nancy is that she is resigning as the chairman. Nancy, is that correct?
Yes, Mark, that's correct.
So upon that resignation, Mary, you would take over as vice chairman and running the meeting. You would ask for a nomination of a new chairman, and then that would proceed depending on who that person is, with a second and then a vote. And then we would need to do the same if we needed to for vice chair. So with that, as vice chair, Mary, you would ask for a nomination for a new chairman.
Okay. I ask for a nomination for a new chair.
I nominate Mary McVeigh.
Thank you. Nancy. Anyone
Does
second?
someone want to?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor, say
I think
aye.
do we have a discussion?
Does anyone need to discuss? Can we go right to a vote? So all in favor, say aye.
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 And those opposed, say nay. Okay. Motion passes, or not a motion, nomination 5-0. All right, now can we move on to,
Well, I think you would need to appoint a vice chair.
okay.
It'll
Now
be
I'd
the
like to
same process, Mary, same process.
All right, now I'd like to nominate someone for vice chair. Could we have nominations for that, please?
I
I'd like to
nominate Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I nominate Dave Gerstenhaber.
Okay. Do we have a second to that? I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay, so can we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay from Donna? Okay. All right, so we have a new vice chair, Dave Gerstenhaber, by a vote of 4-0. And our new chair.
4-1.
4-1. And
No,
our new
where John
chair.
is. Yeah, it sounds like we're not hearing from John. Is he on mute or?
He was
we
on,
lose-
Donna.
Right? Yeah, I'm not hearing him. I
He
mean,
was
I don't
here.
think it changes the vote, but that's, yeah, it's just not hearing him.
Are you with us, Sean?
Yeah, the vote's nay.
So 2 nays for Dave, am I reading that right?
Yeah, and can I just make a comment? I didn't vote nay because, Dave, not that, I don't think you can do the job. That's not the point. I just thought it might be, in a sense of trying to work things that we come together in the future. I was just looking to see maybe John would be the vice chair, but this is really nothing against you, Dave.
Okay. All right, so the new chair, unanimous vote is Mary McVeigh, and our vice chair is Dave Gerstenhaber with a vote of 3-2. Very good, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the public comment.
Did you not want me to do something, or
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna. You have a comment you want to make. Excuse me.
is that what you want, Mary? Is that?
Yes,
that
go
how you
ahead,
want
Donna, please.
Okay, thank you, Mary. All right, so just have a statement that I want to make in response to the letters from Mr. Dick Whipple. So just if the people could listen for a second. For years, the Franklin Township Board of Supervisors has been the target of falsehoods and innuendos from Mr. Dick Whipple's newsletter. We have refrained from responding to Mr. Whipple because of his right to free speech. However, now Mr. Whipple is attacking the integrity of the township staff, in particular our township manager and treasurer. Ms. Jo McVaugh has held the dual role of manager-treasurer since 2012. During this year, she has been complimented by the township elected auditors, Fred Shearing, Jim Johnstone, Larry Jones, and the township auditors, Barbara Kane Thornton and Company, for doing an exemplary job. She has been responsible for implementing several processes so that no one person has control over township money, including the requirements for 2 township supervisors to co-sign every check. She has also made sure that the township residents can easily assess the monthly treasury report and the yearly budget via the township website. I sincerely ask Mr. Whipple if he has specific concerns. I'd ask that he come to a township meeting via Zoom, and as part of public comments, please address those concerns to us, and please, I ask him to stop implying wrongdoing by our dedicated township staff. Just another comment about a newsletter and communication in Franklin Township. Many residents believe the Whipple newsletter is the official Franklin Township newsletter. It's not. The official newsletter that was enthusiastically supported by the board is at the printer now, and you will receive it shortly. Supervisor Mary McVeigh and Sharon collaborated on this project, and want to thank everyone for their input. The board decided to start this year with a fall and spring newsletter. However, the spring newsletter was not possible because of the coronavirus. It is important to note that there are numerous inaccuracies in the Whipple newsletter. We are not sure where Mr. Whipple gathers his information, but it's not from the board or township staff. For example, a dog park is being discussed, but nothing has been decided by the board. Minutes of the board's meeting will not follow Robert's Rules of Order. This was suggested by a resident. Instead, Supervisors Dea and McVeigh met last week, and we developed a format for the minutes that is acceptable for all future meetings. The board will continue to progress projects to improve communication with the residents. The fall newsletter will be mailed to you in the coming weeks. The revised township website will be available by the first full week in October. Township meetings will continue to be broadcast via Zoom. We hope that you will use these forms of communication as your trusted sources for accurate township information. And this is from the whole board, so signed the Franklin Township Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Donna. All right, we'll move on to the public comment. This public comment is for anything relating to items on tonight's agenda. The last public comment is for items not on tonight's agenda. It's important to state your name clearly for the record so that your comments can be reflected accurately. Please state whether you are a township resident or a township taxpayer. If you're using YouTube, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be reflected in the minutes. Any public comment?
I'm not hearing Mary at all.
She's faint for me, but I can hear her.
It was more than faint. I could not hear any of what she said.
I can hear Mary just fine. I'm not sure
Something's
what's
wrong with
going
her
on.
microphone.
I hear her just fine.
I'm not muted. It's on blue, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not having any equipment problems.
It is
I
very
can hear
low.
Very low?
Yeah.
All right, can I turn up the volume here? Here? Am I louder now?
That
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
It was volume problem. Thank you. Okay. I usually get told the opposite. All right, let's move on to reports. Dave, could you take the first one, please? First motion?
I make a motion that the board approve the August treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $123,527.87. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $7,323.45. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,330.74. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $2,390. The Highway Aid Fund with disbursements of $29,839.32. And the Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,242,975.64. Seconded by?
I'll second that, Jay.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
All right, John, could you take the next one, the zoning officer report, please?
Zoning officer report. In the month of August, 13 permits are issued, $2,214.07 in building fees was collected, and $1,650 in miscellaneous fees was collected. No recreation, open space, or impact fees were collected. 47 inspections were performed, and there are 5 zoning issues reported. So the only thing I noticed, we've got a lot of inspections. That's one of the longest lists I've seen in a long time. So I'm just wondering how Jeff's able to do all that work. That's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
Um,
Keep going, John.
Okay, any comments on that at all?
I was just hoping that Jen could give us the update on the zoning issues, particularly with Appleton Road.
Okay. Let's see. The first two are just zoning issues. A driveway was put in the wrong location, and a storage container was put on the property in Banashire, so that will be moved. The Appleton Road property, Jeff Vogel's filed the necessary documents in court, and we will wait to hear for a scheduling date. But as you probably have seen, the property is now up for sale. The 18.
Now, what's he cited for? The fact that he hasn't done anything, or the fact that it's falling apart, or what's all of the above?
He cited him because he's letting the house demo by neglect. He's not following our ordinance.
All right, thank you.
1833 New London Road, that's a house that's in foreclosure, and the bank is lax in cutting the grass. We've reached out to them again, and if they don't do something, we'll send our contractor in to mow the grass. 4 Duncan Lane, that property has bamboo growing along the property line, and the owner has been asked to remove it to meet our zoning requirements, which is 10 feet from the property line. So they are seeking quotes from landscapers to remove the bamboo. That's it.
Thanks.
All right, John, can you take the next one also?
Yeah, the PC did not hold a meeting in September, so I assume there's no report. The HARB and Historic Commission Chairman Lagasse will report on the September meeting. Is Paul in attendance this evening?
Thank you, John. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
So the HARB met, as was mentioned, on September 1st. We had quite a lengthy meeting. We again returned to the historic resources map. The issue remains, as I think I may have stated at the last supervisors meeting, that we have some address issues to resolve concerning the properties. We are going to compare the addresses we have to the 911 addresses that the township has, and we will probably ultimately make sure that the 911 addresses are in there unless we have a peculiar conflict. And I'm not sure what that peculiar conflict might be, but there's been a surprise a minute with this thing. As we also discussed the fact that we're postponing our historical talks program until 2021, which I believe I stated before. And we made a definite decision not to have an election day table this year. We just feel that the circumstances are less than ideal. We completed our annual report a little later than normal. And I believe that the board will have it for its review at its next meeting. Joan, is that the plan? I can't hear.
Hope so.
Okay, so yeah, so it's on its way to you. And with a little luck, we'll get it out of the way before the year ends. We had a COA application for 1731 New London Road, which had previously been before us in the spring for new windows, and we have made the recommendation that the supervisors grant a certificate of appropriateness. That's on your agenda later tonight. We briefly noted that we have a demo permit application request to review for 3327 Appleton Road. Subsequent to the meeting, I mailed a formal notification to Mr. Francesco by certified return receipt of the fact that this will be discussed at the October meeting. I then immediately left town because I had vacation plans, not because I didn't want to deal with the subject. And so I haven't yet talked to the township to see if they've gotten the little green postcard that should have come back to them. You got it. Thank you, Joan. And so we will be discussing this unless the situation changes prior to October. With respect to this, I did have one quick question for the solicitor, which need not be answered at this moment, but I would like to have the solicitor's opinion as to how quickly we would need to issue a report to the supervisors following that meeting. I believe that it seems as if there might be a 45-day time period after.
I agree with that, Paul. 45 days.
Okay, so we may not, in an attempt to make a full report, we may not issue a report immediately, but we will have to see how things go and what information we receive from Mr. DiFrancesco and whether he attends at all, since there is no requirement that he attend. Finally, in terms of the meeting, we noted that we've been working with the London Britain Historical Commission on a number of things. These are all minor, and mainly this is a process of keeping in contact with them. These are things that relate to them mostly, not us. Finally, I would like to note a couple things that happened independently of the meeting. We are looking forward to welcoming Sally Gallagher as a new member of the Historical Commission. We have learned that we are likely to lose Liz Randby at some point from the Historical Commission and HARB because she is planning to move. Well, her house is up for sale. She would like to move to California to be closer to her son's family. And finally, Nan Latimer is moving aside as the real estate member of the board and going to become simply a straight member of the board. I have been talking to Karen Marshall in hopes of finding somebody who can fill that position, but we are on the hunt again. And I will continue to do what I can to see if I can find anybody. If somebody out of God's good luck should approach the township and volunteer for that position and have the right background, please let me know as soon as possible. And so that's it for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Park and Recreation Open Space Board Chair Sachs will provide a brief update of the PRO's September 2nd meeting. I don't see Greg on the list of attendees.
Jim German. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will be providing that report tonight. Greg's on vacation this week,
Okay.
so out of town. As I'm sure you're all aware, we're still trying to get our feet under us and get a direction. Most of our tasks have centered around Crossan Park, being the parks and open space. We're concentrating right this minute on parks. So we have a few topics to talk about there tonight. To start off with the use of the park. Greg and Paul Overton had met with one of the local Eagle Scouts, Ryan Gatos, I think that's pronounced right, to discuss doing a project there in the park where the project would involve planting some trees and constructing and installing some bluebird boxes. Not sure how far that's progressed from their troop standpoint, if he was able to put his package together and get the go-ahead to move forward with that project, but that's a possible project that will be starting up maybe later this fall or in the springtime when he could put the trees in. The collection of the members of the board met last week at Banishire and mowed some trails and removed some vines from some trees over there, just trying to clean it up and keep those trails open and available for the public to use. I know Donna spoke of it earlier and maybe bouncing around. The committee talked about using some of the space between the Healing Gardens and Parsons Road as a possible dog park. Questions and opinions for and against it. I know up at Goddard Park up in West Grove, a lot of people use that park. Down our way, a lot of people tend to have bigger yards down this way and don't really need to travel to use a dog park. So what we proposed and what's currently taking place is there was a question added to the community survey to understand what the community might want to be able to do. So once we get the results back from that survey, we will look at it and decide our plan forward, if a dog park's even feasible and worth it to put in. The one thing we're definitely going to move forward with, and I've talked with Jeff, and I believe they're looking to get some additional pricing, is some road signs saying, hey, Crossan Park this way, something that we can post out on 896 and also over on Good Hope Road to direct people into the park. Because even though it does see some activity, if you don't know where Crossan Park is, you're not going to find it. Also, some of the members of the committee over the weekend took some mowers through the Keene Trail to clean that up. It's been a while, it was starting to overgrow pretty good. So that trail's opened up again in the township. Earlier this week, I working with Jeff, I took a lanternfly trap down and placed it in the lower section of Crossan, down below the lower pavilion. A lot of spotted lanternflies down there. I don't know if the township has any other connections or information of possible treatments other than traps. We might want to look into that and maybe treat some of that area down there and see if we can make an impact on some of those spotted lanternflies, because they're pretty ugly down there. One of the swings when we did our tour through the park last week, or 2 weeks ago or so, on the kiddie swings were broken. I know Jeff is ordered those parts. They should be in soon. And when they do come in, I'll already talked to Jeff, said I'll get up there and install that on the one swing set. The healing gardens. Greg Sachs has been in contact with a professor of turf grass and horticultural systems in the Department of Plant and Soil Sciences at the University of Delaware. We're looking to spruce up the healing garden area there. Still trying to understand what we want to do there, but did some initial conversations we had with him. This professor is working on a trial for a project he's been working on, involving a mix of native grasses and perennials that can be rolled out similar to sod, and that would aid in keeping the gardens low maintenance. The plantings would go into the ground around May 1st of next year and could be done at no cost to the township, because it's a trial area. So I believe the professor was there with Greg and looked at the garden area. Yeah, some of the timbers that are rotted would have to be replaced. But overall, it's a good opportunity to dress that area up and minimize the maintenance costs of having it there and available to the public. Like I said, we're very beginning of talking with this professor. We will know more in the next few weeks. And I think that's it for Parks and Open Space at this time.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, the only comment I give you, I did listen to your meeting, is that you may want to stay close to the supervisors in London Grove Township about the dog park. They have in-depth key learnings on their experience up there. Some of it not all that good, but you may be able to benefit from their experience. So
yeah, we've discussed briefly on that yeah, great, you put the fence up and let the dogs in. Well, there's still a lot of work after that fact, and do we want to commit the township to have to worry about that? So that's it. We're still talking. It's still a long way to go.
Jim, could I ask you one question?
Sure.
The lanternfly trap, you put it in the lower part of Crowson? That's where there's a heavy infestation? Is that
Yeah,
right?
that I found down below the lower pavilion to the right. There's a little trailhead goes off into the woods there.
Yes.
But there are a lot of them down through that area.
Okay.
Like I said, I've seen some stuff out there for personal applications. I don't know if the township has made any connections with anything for a larger spraying or anything else to try to knock them down. But just something to think about.
Okay, there was a meeting of Chester County politicians and also Representative Houlihan, like a week or two ago, right around Labor Day. And they were talking about the spotted lanternfly and problems in Chester County and the devastation they would do. So I think I would like to certainly reach out to Representative Houlihan's office and see.
Okay.
There is money that they want to pump in to try and solve this problem.
Yeah,
So,
because it's not so
Yeah.
much the flies that kill the tree, it's their waste
yes.
that they generate that kills the trees. And when I went down there and saw it, that's the first time I've really had a run-in with lanternflies. And I was amazed at the amount of them that are there at the base of the tree and just continuing on up 20, 30 feet up into the tree. So,
Okay, well, we'll look into it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, next item, Nan Latimer will report on the September 15th community workshop meeting. I don't see her on the list of attendees.
Yeah, Nan had an emergency tonight at her house, so she won't be able to make the meeting. She did send me something just to say that we had the community workshop. Most all of the board members were there. We also had attendees from the Planning Commission there as well. I think we had a total of something like 46 50 participants last night that were separated out into breakout rooms to go over their concerns in the township that will be incorporated into the comp plan. So I thought the meeting went well. At least my breakout room was very informative. I had a lot of good conversation and then differences of opinion, and so it was a really positive experience for me, I think. I don't know if any other board members have a comment, but I thought it went off really well.
Yeah, I also thought it went really well. It was so good to have the breakout sessions where individual residents felt that they could talk and get their opinions out there. I thought it was really good. I also thought it was interesting that it all ended with VIOS, and such a big concern by the residents. I mean, I wish we could wave a wand and make it and fix it, but it definitely is a concern about the VIOS.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the meetings went pretty well. Breakout sessions were quite useful. I'd be interested to know whether there's a list of attendees by breakout group. There was somebody talking, had some interesting comments last night, but I never got the woman's name. So I'd be curious to see what the attendees are. That's something we could pass on to Nan.
Right. Okay.
Okay, next item is Jim German will offer his report on the Franklin Township Sportsmen's Association.
Good evening. Everybody can hear me, I hope. This is our first report for the 2020 hunting season for the Franklin Sportsmen's Association. Just a brief overview of why I'm doing it. The FSA provides this update to inform the Board of Supervisors about events, activities, and the deer harvest information has taken place during the 2020 hunting season. I will be your representative for most of the meetings throughout the rest of the year and season, and providing reports between September and February of this hunting year. At this time, membership, our membership is full at 35 registered members in the association. This year we had 2 openings, and they were filled with township residents who were on the waiting list. On August 29th and 30th, the annual proficiency shoot was held for members. We had 22 members successfully take and pass the archery proficiency test, and 25 members have successfully taken their shotgun proficiency test. At this time, we have 6 members who have not qualified for either. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we will get them qualified, whether they want to take archery and or just shotgun. And that's why the numbers are 22 and 25. Some people only hunt archery. Some people may only hunt shotgun. So it's not that we're going to see 35 people qualified to hunt both archery and shotgun. And one key thing to note that's not on there, prior to any of our members being allowed to hunt, even though they passed a proficiency shoot, they must complete at least one service project. So I know when I looked at the service project the other day, there's a few people that still haven't completed a project yet. So we'll be working with them to make sure they get something done. Hunting seasons. There's been a lot of shooting I've heard lately in the area, and that's because goose season is in. So some of the other farms, aside from the township property, there tends to be a lot of shooting taking place, in addition to the air cannons that are going off on a regular basis over at Paradox Winery. I know out on the local message boards, Landenberg and West Grove, there's a lot of people asking what those booms are. So it's those air cannons that Paradox is firing on a regular basis. Okay, so hunting season for archery, the fall archery season officially opens up this Saturday, the 19th, and runs until November 27th. And then once again, archery will come in after Christmas and run to January 23rd. Shotgun season, that opens November 28th and closes December 12th. And again, in this area, special regulations, it opens December 26th and runs through January 23rd. Again, the reason why there's such a long shotgun season after Christmas is because this is a very high density deer area. So the Pennsylvania Game Commission has chosen to allow additional hunting in this area to help reduce the herds. And again, the Pennsylvania Game Commission, I believe most of the board knows already, but our local Chester County game warden has retired, Keith Mullins. Right at this time, as I understand it, the Game Commission is using a collection of other game wardens to cover this area, and we will be getting a new full-time warden that will cover this later on in the fall once that person has completed his training. I don't know anything further than that at this time. The parcels, Banashire, Franklin, Goodwin, White Clay, all the signs and postings have been put up to inform the public that hunting will start to be taking place very soon, starting Saturday. I know I marked Franklin specifically, our signboard at the lower end of the drive and up along the field and out across Parsons Road. Harvest report, none at this time. Community service projects from July 20th to now, we've done a collection of projects. Regular basis, mowed the grass and entrance around the Banashire Preserve, weed whacked the heavier stuff to keep that looking good. Crossing Park, there was a trail cleanup here a few weeks ago. There's trees removed, bushes cut back. A collection of us cleaned the edge along the road all the way to the bottom part of the field, all the overhangs. So when yard work goes in there to do their mowing, they don't have to dodge and bob and get around all the areas. Talking with Jeff, he also asked if we could go all the way around the park and do that cutback to make it safer for yard work so nobody gets poked in the head or in the eye with some of these low branches that are hanging out over the cut area. So we're working to schedule that additional cutback lopping of all the hedges and low lying branches all the way around the perimeter of the park where grass is currently being cut and mowed. White Clay Crescent, I don't know if the township, and I forgot to send some pictures yesterday when I sent this out. There was a couple larger branches across the access road to White Clay and also a large section of tree that came down and impaled the middle of the road. It looked like a tree was growing out of the middle of the road going up to the parking area in White Clay. So some members cleaned that all out so that road's accessible again. Banashire, we continue to send small crews in there to cut and remove the vines that are invading the trees in there. If anybody's walked in there from the board at any time, it's just overgrown with vines that are creeping up these trees and this old mature growth timber. If we don't get it out of there, it will kill it for sure. This past weekend, there was a painting project at Crossing Park on the small playground equipment, the bars, some of the spring horses. I'm not sure what all they did paint, but they had an issue with Lowe's or Home Depot, couldn't get the paint they wanted, so they weren't able to get everything done. But in follow-up with Bob, who runs our service project program, he said after doing the one piece of equipment, they decided that all the rest of the equipment's going to have to be done because it makes everything else look really bad. So we'll continue to work on that project, hopefully get that second phase of that when we get more paint and get that cleaned up. Again, we've been working with Jeff on that to get that done. You said we're planning for additional work to cut back the edge all the way around Crossing. There will be a road cleanup starting soon for this quarter, Chesterville and Creek Road, to pick up trash along the roads there. So far, there's been since July, we've contributed 46 hours of service to the township. Over the last 4 years, contributed over 500 hours of service to the township. Just last year alone, which was a record year for us, was 201 hours we contributed. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Any questions?
So
Just
should I
a
move
big
on?
thank you. Yeah, thank you for everything.
Mary, you want me to move on to business?
Yes, Nancy, if you can do it. Yep.
Sure. I make a motion that the board authorize the manager to submit the revised MS4 permit to DEP. Seconded by,
I'll second that.
Donna?
okay, any discussion?
Glenn from LTL is here to answer any questions that anyone has. Glenn?
Hi there. We're also, just this month, we're working on your MS4 annual report, which is separate from what the TMDL report and the PRP waiver request that we're doing.
Lots of paperwork, right? You have to love the regulatory.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, just,
Now, I thought we discussed this last meeting, so I don't have any comments. John, do you have some comments?
just a comment. I see a lot of people in here that may not know what's going on. The MS4 permit was originally prepared and we excluded a good bit of farmland because that land is being managed by the Chester County Conservation District. And the DEP rejected that plan and we had to put all our farmland back in. So we thought we were on firm ground there because other townships have gotten some dispensation in this area, but we did not. So Glenn, you might be able to comment on that a little bit.
Right. Well, we did have one other township that did get that approved, that agricultural land exclusion, but in my opinion, it might have been just an oversight by DEP more than an approval. I think it was more of an oversight that they didn't really take notice of it. So they did see it in Franklin Township's case.
Okay, thank you. I have no-
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Nancy, I was on mute.
And Mary, are you? All opposed, say nay. I think motion carries 5-0. I think Mary might have been on mute.
I was. I said aye.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Donna, can you introduce Ron for the road evaluation?
He's not on.
He's not on? Okay.
We have an anonymous there.
So maybe I'll just say a few words. So, so we do have a piece of work that the board authorized several meetings ago for an engineer, and in this case it was Ron Reagan, someone who's well respected in the area, to look at several of our roads and to come back to the board with an evaluation of how those roads look and how they've held up over the years. The ages of the roads ran from 2 years. Since they've been repaid to 10 years, so it was a pretty good span. And based on feedback from Ron that we have in our books, Ron's not likely to give A's. He just says he's a hard marker and does not give A's for paving projects. And so the B's that we're giving for 5 of the 6 roads that were evaluated, I think speak well to the road work. There was a C given for the Scott Glen Road, and I was hoping that we could discuss with Ron his sense of that and maybe some lessons learned that we could share with Jim, our road person. But I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Maybe Jim could comment on if he agrees with Ron's assessment regarding Scott Glen Road. Jim DeRazio, are you on? Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I can comment on that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Ron and I had a conversation about several of the roads, and the biggest thing we came up with There was a couple things. One was the cold seams between the paving and the trucks coming in. The biggest thing, and Ron will tell you, and I gotta laugh at this, but I don't laugh at it, but is the seam. And that is something this year that I have dealt with Ron and trying to make our seams 110% better. The last couple roads we did, I asked Ron point blank, and our seams are a lot better. With the way we had to do with Scotts Glen, because of 896, we kind of changed our normal plan up, and we went from the outside in to try to accommodate the 896 traffic. So because of the way the trucks came in, we had a lot of different things to deal with. Talking with Ron, if Ron was on here, Ron can tell me if I'm right or wrong or indifferent. I will back up what Ron says. But all in all, for the logistics on that project, I think we did the best way we could do it to make it work.
Thanks, Jim. That's really helpful. So there was something you can look back on. You can say there's a reason why you had more difficulty with that road getting the seams right, because it seems like the other roads were fine. There weren't any issues, there weren't similar issues like that. So I think all in all, it was a good result for our roads. I'll open it up to what the other supervisors, if they have any questions for Jim.
Donna, I agree with that assessment. There are a lot of people on the list here I see that probably don't really know what they're talking about when Jim talked about the seam. That's when they pave a road, the paver only covers half the road, and then you turn it around and come up and do the other half. So then there's a seam down the center of the road where the two paving operations meet. And that was an issue that Ron took up, some issue with the seam. So just a point of information.
Yeah, and John, just to help people further, so there are some paving companies that pave all the way through on one go. So that's just a different approach that different paving companies take.
Any other comments before I turn it back to Mary?
Jeff was trying to make a comment.
Yeah, Jeff wants to make a comment.
I don't know if everyone can hear me. Ron Reagan contacted me. He offered his apologies. He had an emergency he had to deal with tonight, so he wanted me to extend his apologies.
Okay. All right. No more comments. We'll move on. All right, let's see. I make a motion that the board authorize the staff to move forward with the repair of Creek Road as outlined in the estimate provided by Yardworks.
A second.
I'll second that. Yeah, let John do it.
Okay, discussion? I believe this work is due to storm damage?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Mary, the only question I got is, that's on the dirt and gravel road thing, and in many cases, the Conservation District has helped us out with that, but I don't think we're going to get any help from them this year because they've got all their money in our Hess Mill Road Bridge.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that point got out there, because normally we would get some assistance from the Conservation District on a road like that, but they've spent all their money on the Hess Mill Road Bridge.
Okay. All right. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Dave?
I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors appoint Sally Gallagher to the Historical Commission for a term of 5 years, ending December 31st, 2024. Seconded by?
I'll second.
Seconded by Nancy Morris. Discussion.
I'm happy she's interested. She sounds like someone who really likes historical properties and wants to give some of her time. I think it's wonderful that she's volunteered.
Thank you very much, Sally, and thank you, Donna. All in favor, say aye.
Dave?
Oh,
Dave?
sorry.
Aye.
If I may just quickly say, I'm looking forward to welcoming her on the commission. I don't know her personally, but I'm glad to know that she's interested.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
just one comment. I know that Sally's got a large agricultural property up on Auburn Road. The last time I was up there, she had it planted in corn.
Terrific.
Okay.
All right. Try the vote again.
Yeah, so, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, you're up again, John, please.
Okay, I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the certificate of appropriateness for 1733 New London Road as recommended by the HARB.
I'll second that.
Seconded by David. Any questions or discussions? I believe they're doing siding repairs or something.
Right.
Yeah, if I may just quickly say something. The house is a contributing structure in the HARB, in the historic district, but in and of itself, it's not of the standard to be eligible for the National Register. Currently, it's covered by aluminum siding and the like, and so that siding is going to be replaced with vinyl siding, and it actually involves doors and shutters and that sort of thing. As a result, there's a change in materials, but there are no historical issues associated with this.
Yeah.
Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. The board will discuss engaging Carrie Vargo to conduct an assessment of the township office structure and operations. No motion offered. Carrie's on the call. The board reached out to him about a month ago. I'm not sure if we've ever actually done an assessment of how our township is structured, a formal assessment versus other townships. So we thought it would be helpful to hear from Carrie. So Carrie, if you just want to share what you would do if you were to do an assessment.
Sure. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name's Kerry Vargo. I am CEO of Arrow Consulting. I've been with Arrow since November of 2015. Prior to joining Arrow, I served in the public sector for 20 years as in the services sector, in various capacities, law enforcement, EMS, fire, emergency management, and really pretty much anything possible in the emergency sector. The following 12 years were spent as a
Carrie, excuse me, you're drifting in and out. I don't know if your microphone's too far away, but we're not catching everything you're saying.
I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. Can you hear me?
No, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to hear you.
We're all muted here, Carrie, so I'm not sure where your feedback is coming from.
Let me see if I can call in mute the video.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are more than 20 participants in the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You have been put on hold by the host. You cannot listen or talk until the host releases the hold. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
How's that, everybody?
You're creating feedback. You got a speaker on somewhere, I think.
You sound louder, but you have an echo.
Maybe we should move on and then come back to Carrie.
Let's try that. I'll just drop off video. How's that, everyone?
That's good.
Way better.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what was going on. I do this multiple times a day and never really have any issues. So I'll just do an executive summary then of my introduction. I have been in the public service sector for 32 years. Any management study really should start with an understanding of the culture of the community, their wants as they relate to the delivery of municipal services. Franklin currently is going through a wonderful process, and it sounds like you've got quite a bit of participation in your comprehensive plan update process. So really, in my mind, an ideal time to take a look at township operations as a whole. Once you get a good understanding of the expectations of the community, the next step would be an understanding of the expectations, the goals and objectives of your elected officials. And then beyond that, you move to your administrative analysis, which is an analysis of your administrative resources, administrative capacity, an analysis of various policies and procedures as they relate to industry recognized best management practices, and finally a risk management analysis. The risk management analysis really is very, very critical as it relates to financial operations, safety of public works crew, law enforcement, fire, et cetera. All of that obviously varies a great deal depending on the community that you are conducting the analysis for. But just succinctly, it's really an understanding of the community, an understanding of the goals and objectives of the elected officials, and then moving on to administrative capacity and risk management analyses. With that, I'll take questions. And again, I do apologize for that issue with the video and the audio.
Well, in some ways, I look at this. So I think, Joan, we've agreed to do an assessment of our policies and to address those which don't make sense or don't connect. To me, this is the kind of bigger picture assessment of how does everything fit together. And as Carrie said, I think with the comprehensive plan, as a township, we need to decide some things. Do we always want a person sitting at a desk? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I know other townships, you're able to go directly to a person's number and leave a message or reach their cell phone. There's a lot of questions that I don't know how we got set up this way. And I just think it's interesting and probably valuable to spend that money to understand more. As I said, we're not voting today, but that's, my 2 cents.
I just wanted to make a comment that this in no way is negative assessment of how the office is currently run. No, I know I'm not saying that. I don't believe anybody from the board is saying that. It's just from what Nancy was saying, a best practice is just to take a look, because we haven't done it for, I don't know when the last time is we did it, to see, you know, can we optimize, can we do things better? But it's nothing negative to be said about the current office. I think the current office runs very well. It's just to see if we can be better.
I agree, Donna, and I think it's necessary that we be able to tell our residents, here's why we do things the way we do them. Because if they have questions, we need answers, and this is an assessment that we need. Thank you.
This is John Auerbach. I've got a few comments. I support the study. I think it's appropriate. I go back to some work that I did back in 2015. I did a benchmark study of our township compared to all the surrounding townships. And I was primarily looking at expenses and income to see what the differences were. But what I did notice back then is that all the townships that surround us work part-time hours except for London Grove Township, which is a vastly different township than we are in terms of the amount of money they take in and the services they provide. So just looking at that fact, that these townships survive with less administrative effort, and they're about the same size or smaller than we are. So that's really something, if we look at it, I'd like to see, take a look at that and see whether that provides any information that would be useful in the study.
Yeah, John, I think you raise a great point, and that's why I think any successful study really starts with an understanding of what your constituents are looking for from a service delivery standpoint, and then obviously the various board members as far as their goals and objectives as they relate to service delivery. I think it all starts there.
Yeah,
I think it's a great point.
I just want to clarify that I really never did anything rigorous about it, other than that was an observation I made when I was gathering up information on expenses and income. So I never really looked at, how many employees they had or what their administrative loads and duties were. So, but it's just something that stood out to me as a difference between us and our surrounding neighbors.
Does anyone have any questions for Carrie? Carrie, it sounds like you've been doing this many years, and you used to be the manager at Upper Euclid, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so 32 years in the public service area. 20 of those were in emergency services, but then 12 years, the last 12 years in public service was spent as a township manager. First 2 in Thornberry Township, Chester County, which is a smaller municipality, about 3,500 residents, maybe 3.5 square miles. And then I transitioned and was the manager for 10 years in Upper Euclid Township, just outside of Downingtown, obviously north central Chester County, and closer to now 12,000 residents and about 11.5 square miles. And that's really where I'll say I cut my teeth on risk management analyses.
Great. Well, so anyone else have any questions, comments?
I guess, Nancy, and you're probably going to go there right anyways, what our next steps are. Well, can Carrie give us like I don't know, does he have a document that lays out what he'll do, or is it just a matter of, tell me, what do you think the next steps are if we're not voting tonight?
Well, I think Carrie gave us a document, and we just agreed to just learn from Carrie and then discuss this, and I think we'll probably vote next month if we think this is worthwhile. I do think it's fairly topical because we do have the secretarial position that Mary is filling temporarily, and we will at some point need to decide whether that's going to be a part-time or full-time position. So it would inform that decision. But I think for now, we're just saying, we'll review Kerry's proposal, which he's submitted, and I think maybe we've all seen. If not, we'll make sure that gets to everybody. And then I think we'll come back, Mary, next month, maybe? Is that what you're thinking?
I really didn't think that far ahead, but I want to look over the proposal first. I think we all need a chance to review it, but we could put it on the agenda next month with questions after we individually review this proposal, and move along that way. But yeah, I agree. We do have a secretarial position to fill, and getting some direction on that would be terrific.
Joan, could you send out the proposal? It's probably in my email somewhere, but I'm having a bit of trouble with the new email. So if we could just send it out again, I agree with you, Mary. We need to look at it and be prepared for next month.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Nancy and Mary made an important point that we have a secretarial position that unfortunately has opened up, but it is an opportunity to redefine that position if we develop a study that provides some direction for that particular job function. So I think that is something you'd want to hold off on, because I don't think you could write a job description for that position right now if you're considering some reorganization of the structure.
Are there any more questions, or shall we just thank Kerry for his presentation and we'll look into this further? Any more questions?
Yeah,
Go, Nancy.
just thanks very much, Kerry. So I'm thinking we'll probably have further conversations with you, but we really appreciate you joining.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for having me out. My apologies for the audio difficulties. I'll investigate that and make sure that if we are together next month, that doesn't reoccur. If anybody has any questions at any time while you're reviewing the proposal, please feel free to reach out to me or have Joan reach out to me, however you would prefer to communicate, and we'll get you the answers that you're looking for. I appreciate it, and everybody have a great night.
All right. Thank you, Kerry. All right. Donna, can you take the next one?
Sure. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the Master Casting Resolution 2020-17 to allow PennDOT to perform necessary work on utility access point when paving roads in the township. Could I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
All right, thanks, Dave. This is very, I know it sounds kind of scary what a master casting resolution is, but this is a very routine thing that we do every year or every so often. I know it has to do with manhole covers and making sure that they can get, PennDOT has access to do whatever it is they have to do when they work on our roads. Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'll take us right to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 John? Oh, okay. Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm guessing I heard everybody, so it's 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-18 to appoint fire chiefs from West Grove and Avondale Fire Companies as Township Fire Marshals, seconded by?
I'll second that, Mary.
All right, Donna. Any discussion? Okay. Joan, I understand this is just a routine. We do this every year. So it's kind of just an administrative thing. So, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes unanimously 5-0. John, you're up again.
Okay, I'm going to give a short report on the Hess Mill Road Bridge. In the last meeting, we presented a fairly optimistic expectation related to schedule, where where Ron Reagan Engineering had approved all the drawings so that the supplier could begin fabrication, and he approved those drawings on August 21. And we were under the expectation that the supplier could provide the bridge in 5 weeks, which could give us an early delivery date of end of September, which is about at least 4 or 5 weeks earlier than we had planned. So we were looking at a much earlier project. In reality, when we got right down to talking to the supplier, he couldn't deliver the bridge that quickly. So we are right back on our original schedule, which is a bridge delivery about November 1st and a bridge project completion December 1st. So unfortunately, this is the typical kind of municipal project and not something I've been accustomed to in the corporate construction and private construction, but that's just the way these suppliers operate. Let's see, I had a few other comments here. One other page here. We did get a design for the detour plan by Ron Reagan. I was surprised at the complexity of it, the number of signs that are required, but it was a very extensive bit of work. And Jeff Eastburn is in the process of getting bids to put these signs up. It's a fairly complex job, and Yardworks doesn't feel that they can be economical in putting them up because many of them are dual post signs, and it's really something they may not do economically. So we have bids at the moment starting at $3,000 up to $21,000 for these detour signs, which kind of astounds me. But I assume we're going to work with the lower bid, although I don't know any decisions have been made. Jeff, you on the line, and could you comment on that a little bit? I'm not hearing Jeff at all.
Oops, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll start again. The township has decided to use a company that London Grove uses, and they happen to be the lowest bidder. And those signs will be in place by the end of the day on September 30th.
Okay.
What was the cost, Jim? Or Jeff, what's the cost?
It was roughly $3,400.
That's much better than 20 grand, okay.
Yes.
Okay, just one other comment related to public information. We did get an article about the bridge project in the Chester County Press in the August 26th issue. It was front page coverage and fairly detailed. So that was one of the key items in the project's plan, was to get some public information out besides our website. So that was successful. I don't really have anything else to add other than we're back on our original schedule.
All right.
Did you want me to go next, Mary? Or?
Yes, please, Donna, go to the next one.
Okay, so Joan, just a request for you to do a brief update on the 2020 road program.
Okay. We have finished the 2 road projects that were decided on earlier this year, the Elbow Lane and Auburn Road. The paving was finished this Monday. And there is still some hardening of the edges that needs to be done. And again, we usually wait for the asphalt to cure before we go in with our equipment and do that. We finished Auburn Road just in time for PennDOT to use it as a detour for the bridge that they're replacing on North Creek Road. North Creek?
Clay Creek Road.
Clay Creek Road. Clay Creek Road. Yes. So again, I think it was a successful road program. Jeff and I are still working with PennDOT about the liquid fuel projects. We're in the process of sending in additional information to the PennDOT representative because the new gentleman says he doesn't have anything from the first man who gave us approval to do the projects. So we're trying to work with him and straighten all of that out.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That's good. I'll hand it back to you, Mary.
Okay, are there any questions on the 2020 road project update?
The only comment I'd make is that we've put the base asphalt down, but the wear code is not on right now. So if they do any damage with the heavy traffic from the detour, we should be able to correct that when we put the top asphalt on.
Okay. All right.
When does that get put on, John or Jim or somebody? When do we put on the top coat?
I don't know when that's scheduled yet.
This year?
But the concern was that they wanted to start this detour immediately after we paved, and I wanted a whole day for the thing to harden up, which we got. So we finished it Monday and they started their detour today. So I don't know what the schedule is for the top coat.
Jim Durazio, do you know, or does Jeff know? Can someone tell me when we plan to put the top coat on?
The top coat on the northern section can be done in the next 2 or 3 years. We wanted to give Gourmet Mushroom enough time to figure out what they may or may not be doing in the economy. So we did all that with approval from Ron Reagan and his full knowledge.
We can wait 2 to 3 years before we put a top coat on.
That's what he told us.
Okay, and that doesn't affect the road. Okay, how about the other part? How about the part that's not by Gourmet?
We did 12.5, which is an acceptable process that doesn't need to have a top coat on it. So
Okay.
it's midway in between. We're fine with that.
Thanks.
Donna.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
No problem. That 12.5, that is also considered as a wear coat, but the 12.5 does have a higher tensile strength to hold up to heavier weights.
Okay.
9.5, like John or Jeff said, I'm sorry. That is a base coat. And going back to what John said, if we have to, do a repair here and there, it's nothing like what we had. So your road is probably 150 times better than what you had to start with.
Okay. And you're okay waiting 2 to 3 years before you put the top coat on?
Yes. So if you look at something like Windermere, that development sat for almost 10 years. And they had to go back and do very little base repair before they put the top coat on it. Now, considering that as a development, but if you take everything across the board by raising that road, we do 3.5 inches over there. The biggest problem we had was drainage. So we've increased the drainage issues that we had on that upper section also. Now, like Jeff said, depends on what Gourmet Delight does. That's also going to help us on drainage and on the road surface itself.
So we just kind of have some flexibility by waiting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
All right. If there are no more questions, Nancy, can you move on to item 4?
Yes.
5,
The manager.
whatever?
The manager will provide an estimate for the cost of digitizing the township records through the end of the year. And I'll just say that this is the project that's, it's been a multi-year project to take all of the drawings and permits and put everything on computer, on the system, so that we don't have to rely on paper copies. So we wanted to know what the cost estimate is for the rest of the year.
Okay, based on Eileen's attendance here at the office, usually 2 days a week and approximately 5 hours of homework, I've estimated our cost to be approximately $4,900 till the end of the year.
And Jenna will be done by the end of the year? Is that,
No, it's not done. She's nearing to finish, but I can't guarantee you that it's going to be done by the end of the year. And when she does finish the actual scanning, there is a directory that we'd like her to create.
So
Yes.
this should not require any voting, right? Because it's
No,
part of the budget.
her salary is part of the budget, and it has been
Okay.
every year.
Okay, so it's just visibility for people.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else?
Yeah, Nancy and the board, I've got a comment. This fits into our longer term plan to improve the office facility. We've done a number of projects in that room to improve the meeting room. One, we got the manager's office, which was in that room, moved into a separate office, and we put in a decent ADA bathroom. And when you look around the room, you'll see the room's full of filing cabinets and document storage. So the intent was at some point, get that document storage out of the building, out of the room, and improve the meeting area, providing more space for meeting and something that's more appropriate to the building. So it's part of the long-term plan to improve that meeting area. Among other projects, I don't want to get too involved in them, but that was an element in the meeting room improvement.
I think that's it, Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out some things that we did with the YouTube. So what we do is after we live stream to YouTube, the video is stored on YouTube, warts and all. Let me see if I can share my screen. But I wanted to show, up until recently, we've been trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do and how to organize it. And I wanted to show some things that kind of make it easier for folks to get the information that they want. Let me see if I can share my screen. I can't share my screen. The host has disabled screen sharing. You can turn it on. All right, so let's show my screen. Let's see. So you guys should all see my screen. So here's the YouTube channel. So I'm subscribed. This is Franklin Township PA is the channel. So if you search Franklin Township PA, this channel will come up and you can just hit subscribe. There'll be a red button. And you hit subscribe and you can subscribe and then you will get notifications. You click this bell, you get notifications whenever a new video comes up. But one of the things, and really the point of this was, I'm gonna go to the Board of Supervisors meeting. We don't need to, I tried to find the most flattering image of all of us at the same time. You can see, one of the things that I asked, I asked Jeff to actually just help me out with this, is I don't necessarily care about hearing the call to order all the time, but I might be interested in the Parks and Rec and Open Space report or the Treasurer's report. And so when somebody is interested in a video, all of these timestamps are aligned with the agendas for the meetings. So if you have a question or forget something that, for the Board of Supervisors, how was something said or what was said, you can go right to, so for example, the Hess Mill Bridge placement, you just click on that and it'll go right to that timestamp and you can get right to whatever place in the agenda you want. And we don't have to replay it, but that was just one of the advancements that we're trying to do, because what we're again trying to do is make this really easy for folks to find information. So when you go to our website and you have a question about what was talked about, you can go right to our link to the last Board of Supervisors meeting, and then you can go right to whatever topic you're interested in. So that's really all I wanted to say, and I wanted to thank Jeff for taking his time to actually just kind of do this for us, which was really nice of him. Nice job. So the other thing that we're doing is everything that we do is posted and stored on YouTube. And so we have different playlists. If you go to the playlist side, you'll see Parks and Rec and Open Space meetings. You'll see our roadwork meeting, comprehensive plan meetings, planning commission meetings, and our board of supervisors meetings. And so, you know, my goal, what I would like to see is any open meeting that we have, to have something stored up here for archival purposes. So that's really all I have to say. I don't know if Jeff, you have anything to add. Okay, Jeff's good.
Dave, can I ask a question? Can I just, who actually does somebody have to sit and watch the meeting again to get all those timestamps, or is it done automatically? How does that happen?
So Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about that?
What I do is I go through the agenda, a lot of fast forwarding. It doesn't take all that long, but it's something that I've taught myself to do. So it's not something hard. It is worthwhile, I believe.
How long does it take you to go, like an hour or so to do that? Is it time consuming?
I was up late one night, so it probably took me 20 minutes, if that.
Okay,
I did it from
great.
home.
That's really a nice feature.
Well, yeah, Jeff, I mean, I am Jeff and Dave, because you both have worked on it. I'm really appreciative because, I mean, this way people can see just what they need. They don't have to go through an entire meeting, and it just really provides information at people's fingertips. So thank you very much for doing that.
Myself. So that's really all I wanted to point out, is just to let folks know that we have that enhancement on the YouTube site, and hopefully people will start using it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Donna, you're up. Please take the next
Thanks,
motion.
Mary. So I make a motion to appoint Mary O. Permola, I hope I said it right, as Township Secretary according to Article 8, Section 801 of the Second Class Township Code. Can I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Great, thanks, Mary. I just want to say it's been really wonderful that Mary stepped in, and Nancy, I thank you for finding her. I think she's a big asset to us, and the fact that she's willing to work with us in this interim period, it's really, I mean, I'm very appreciative of it. I'm sure the rest of the board feels the same way. So I don't know if there's any other comments from the board.
Well, I'm appreciative to Mary because she really helped us out, and I just felt it was really important for someone, and it's terrific that it's Mary, to be able to sit down with Sharon and really learn what she was doing, because, you know, the more direct training she could get, the better chance we have of everything moving smoothly. So again, it's not a permanent, you know, this isn't a permanent solution, but Mary, thank you so much.
So I'm gonna, are there any other comments? If not, we can vote. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Good. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, so Mary, welcome aboard, 5-0. And you've already been working for a couple weeks, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mary McVeigh, before we go to the next item, I realized that we didn't actually note the amount of money that we're approving for Creek Road.
Oh, Creek Road.
Yeah, it's 4C.
You know what tab that is, Joan?
It's 8,000. I have it right here.
Thank you, Dave.
The Creek Road, if I have this right, yes, it's $8,872.
Thanks, Dave.
So do we need to re-vote the motion, or do we just add that?
You probably need to redo it, so we have a number.
So I'll just do it since it's in front of me. I make a motion that the board authorize the staff to move forward with the repair of Creek Road as outlined in the estimate for $8,872 $872, provided by Yardworks, seconded by?
I'll
I'll
second it.
second it. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, seconded by Donna. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. All right. Next one. All right. I make a motion to authorize the township manager to sign and submit permit to water quality management permit amendment to the DEP as recommended by sanitary engineer Sandra Morgan. Second? Or do we want to have a discussion about this? Mark, maybe you want to weigh in on this first before we vote on this, or second, even second the motion.
Yeah, I can certainly add a comment based on the borough's previous, I'm sorry, the township's previous approval about a year ago of the permit. This is and I think Stan Corbett's, I believe Stan Corbett's, I see his icon here, so he certainly has a better sense from an engineering standpoint. But when the township granted that permit to the DEP a year ago, there were some conditions to that grant, and those conditions have been outlined in Stan's most recent review letter, which was earlier in the week. They were that an agreement that has to be executed between the township and the developer for the construction of the system. At this point, that agreement has not been executed. It was provided to us back in July. We have provided comments to the developer, but we don't have any sense as to whether or not we can reach that agreement. There's also a situation where we understand that there is site clearing that's going on, and we haven't. The other condition was that the township approve the scope of work and the site improvement contractor and any field construction work before or during the issuance of a permit. So we have a situation right now where we don't have these conditions that were previous conditions that we believe have been complied with. If the board were willing to entertain the approval, I would say that we would need to have these conditions again in there, and I wouldn't submit it to DEP unless those conditions were met. I would leave it to Stan Corbett to add anything further.
Mark, no.
Mark, I was just gonna say, I totally agree with you. I was around last year when this agreement was, when we talked about this, a year ago, we talked about the developer's agreement and that we had asked that get moved on. And a year later, we still don't have an agreement. I just can't vote to put this in the DEP until these three conditions are met. I won't do it. But Stan, you may want to speak. I just feel very strongly about this.
No, I just wanted to clarify that I didn't really have much to add to what Mark said. I think he kind of summarized the history fairly well. Be happy to assist with any questions beyond that, but I think he summed it up well.
Marcus, John Arbach, what I understand is that the developer agreement that was originally signed has been recently resubmitted to you with some very significant changes. Is that correct?
That is correct, John.
So
and those changes were submitted back in July. We had submitted our proposed amendments to the agreement back in August of 2019.
So my concern is that we have an agreement that we agreed to quite some time ago, and right at the precipice of starting some field work, we can't come up with an agreement. So I can't go ahead with the permit submission until we get this developer agreement in place, because the changes that were proposed were significant. I'm not getting involved in the details because I don't know them all, but there were some related to payments from the residents.
Yeah, this is Nancy. Go ahead.
No, I think John was referring to to the pump and haul, which the developer was proposing that the residents and the township take over expensing, as well as soon as the system is in place, the township would take over billing the residents. And this was an agreement that was negotiated years ago for the construction of the original system. We had left all of the provisions that were negotiated in place, and the developer is looking to renegotiate significant provisions concerning the capital reserve fund. There's a whole equation that is necessary in order to determine what that fund would be. We're talking about a system that would ultimately be owned by the township. So it's important that the township take, all due diligence in ensuring that, if and when the system is constructed, that we have the protections in place so that we're able to operate it financially, so that it's a financially viable system. So I don't have any indication right now, John, that we're going to be able to reach an agreement. So that's my concern.
My longer term expectations are that once the system is in place and in functioning, that we're going to want to see it function for some period of time to be sure that it can produce effluent that meets DEP's requirements. So don't think we want to take a system on that is immediately operating and we don't have any operating experience, because we are the permittee, and once we take it over, we're fully responsible for its operation, maintenance, and compliance to DEP requirements.
Yeah, that was one of the protections that was built into the original agreement. I think it was 18 months after the system was fully operational, before the developer's obligations would essentially fall on the township, and they're requesting that it be changed such that after the construction of one of the last houses, that everything basically fall on the township. It's really a situation, again, where we're a mile apart on some of these provisions. I'm not suggesting that we can't bridge the gap or that the developer is refusing to, but I haven't heard anything from their counsel, affirmative to the otherwise, given the fact that we have a decision to make tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to relate some experience that I had with a surrounding township. I have a friendly working relationship with London Britton Township, and they have a 16-house subdivision that operates on a system. Let's say it's similar, but certainly not identical. And it took them quite a long time. They ended up having to finish the system on their own. And it took them quite a long time to get this facility to operate in compliance with DEP on the effluent. So I see one of our neighbors having some significant trouble after one of these systems started. So I'm seriously concerned about that aspect of the system.
So Mark, would you recommend we table this motion for now till
Actually,
the future?
Can we make some comment?
And
my name's Jeff Rutt. I'm here representing Lexington Point, but Fred Ebert is here representing Ebert Engineering, who has been involved for many, many years trying to get approval here. And there's a lot behind the scenes that's been happening here. There's a whole nother side to this. So I'd like Fred to have just a minute or two to explain, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I'd like to ask is, I think Mark probably characterized it fairly well. I'd like to request potentially a work session with some members of the Board of Supervisors and the attorneys, because we're in a logjam. I'm just the engineer trying to get this thing built, and I'm seeing construction season go. And we were very successful in getting through the design by having those work sessions. And if the board would allow us to have a work session with one or two board members, our sides in this, because it is a different system than the original agreement. You can't, the original agreement was based on a certain style of treatment plant, and there's things that do change. So I don't know that we can do everything, and I don't know that we're miles apart, but right now we aren't bridging that gap. There's no good communicate from my perspective as the engineer. No good communication that we can do. And we want to sit down, work through these issues, identify them so that both sides understand why things have changed from the previous agreement with the biological, with the type of treatment plant that it was compared to the type of treatment plant that we have now. So what reason I'm here tonight is I want to talk about three things, but this is the most important because this is the crux of everything, is that the only way we're going to come to an agreement is if we sit down and physically meet. And maybe it's not physical, maybe it's virtual, but that both sides openly communicate so we can do this and we're not trading, emails and trading that. The only way we're going to come to this, because no one wants them on pump and haul anymore. That's not attainable. Everyone wants to have a properly operated system. We don't want to pay for it 3 times. We want to explain to you how we're doing depreciation and capital replacement in the sewer, rental fee, and how we're doing with capital contributions. And if there's overlap, let's identify that and look at where are you at financially in 10 years? What does it take to operate it? Why did we change the system so that it will be less onerous on these people? What provisions have we done? So what I'm asking, the first of my 3 asks would be that if the board, you guys work great with us and we bridged a huge engineering gap by having those work sessions, sitting at the township meeting, and in 2 or 3 of them, we got over that hurdle. So if the board would consider that, it would be helpful.
I'd like to comment. We use Sandy and Stan. They are extremely important to us, and they really are our experts in this area. The board members, we are not experts in this. And as John has noted, it is extremely expensive. We could really, this township could end up with a tremendous cost. So I appreciate where you're standing, but my 2 cents is let's go through the official experts, and that is Sandy and Stan.
But if we aren't making progress, we need to have open communication. And all I'm asking for is a moderator, the same way we did this on the design. And it worked out great. The experts still did that. We're on board with Stan and Sandy. I have a strong recommendation. We already have a Part 2 permit. DEP at the last hour increased the standards. So we respondingly increased the level of treatment to meet that standard. We had the full support of Sandy, and I'm assuming Stan, and a strong recommendation just to send this amendment. Everything is being held up and we're losing this because we can't do an agreement. An agreement is something that we need people to make sure that we're talking and that it allows us to go through and talk. Otherwise, we're going to have this conversation next September. And that's
Fred, if I could just add, I had certainly have no problem having a discussion with your counsel, Greg Edelman, who I've been communicating with on these issues. I sent him an email last week. He asked for more details on the issues the township had. He seemed to agree with the issues that I was raising, not to characterize our discussion, but I have no problem if, you want to propose a phone conference or Zoom meeting to go over those issues so that we can nail it down. But at this point, I know there is trepidation on the township side as to whether or not, like I said, we can come to an agreement, which is ultimately necessary. And we don't want to see the system getting down the road unless we're all comfortable that an agreement can be reached. So, I mean, and Fred, that might not be your issue, but I mean, some of the changes in the agreement were wholesale, and that's our concern.
So can I, Mark, as owner of the property, and we've been paying for engineering fees, hefty engineering fees and pump and haul fees for 15 years, and we just cannot continue. We've been trying to do everything we can to get this approved. We have DEP's approval. We have Stan and Sandy's blessing. At this point, I think we're miles apart on the agreement because it's a different system. And that's why we're not looking to put any kind of burden on the township. At this point, we would be glad to have Stan, Sandy, yourself, and maybe 1 member or 2 members from the Board of Supervisors join some kind of a workshop, so that maybe a Zoom call, so that we could move the discussion to the next level, because it's not happening with just the two attorneys at the table. And that's all we're asking is for a discussion. At this point, if we don't have the ability to prepare the fields, we're going to lose a whole nother year, because this is the time of the year that those fields need to be planted. And by the way, all we did out there was mow. We just took down the brush. But that's the first ask, and maybe we come back to this, is I think what Fred's asking for is a workshop, just Sandy or Stan and maybe two members of the board and yourself, Mark. But Fred, what are the other two items?
Well, let me go through this one. And the reason I'm asking for that is it's got a proven track record. I saw how much progress we made when we sat down at that table and we got over all the technical issues really quickly. We got it through. DEP basically approved this with minimal to no comments. They changed the standard, and that's where we want to amend that. But so I am asking for a work session because they're all related. Let me put my other two items out on the table. Is that I do want to acknowledge that the drip fields were mowed by Sammy Acker and Pikeland. We basically went in and mowed them. They were 8-foot high greenbrier. I mean, it was there. We went in and mowed it with very low pressure equipment. We followed exactly the vegetative management plan that was approved by Sandy, prepared by Larry Hepner. So that was put out and that was done. Jeff actually asked me, I sent an inspector out there. We did that. I believe that Stan was out there this afternoon to inspect it as well. We provided photographic documentation of that to both Joan and Sandy. I know that Bill Briegel, representing Keystone, had called Sandy. We actually had we requested the township to come out just to do a site meeting 2 weeks early, and the township declined to come. We still had it so we could understand what needed to be done. How could we do this? So we've always invited the township. We're now at a point where the field's mowed, and what we're honestly looking for, and this is the ability to establish the crop. We're not putting any infrastructure in the ground. All we're doing is planting grass in accordance with the vegetative management plan, because once again, we have a short weather window. We have a plan that was reviewed and approved by Sandy specifically for this, so that we could go through, so that we're not looking to put any pipe in the ground, but we are looking basically to establish the crop, because I'm going to lose my weather window in about 2 weeks. Right now is the optimum time. So I wanted to tell you what we did, who we communicated with, what happened, and then also to say, can I take the next step? No drip tubing, nothing until the agreement's done. I want to, because they're combined, the agreement and this is, can I plant the grass with Sandy and Stan inspecting out there, following the exact approved protocol in my existing permit and that Sandy approved, and then follow up with a work session. And if we have to do it monthly till we bridge this gap, to get that gap done so we can get this treatment plant built that's approved by Sandy, full design approval from Sandy, and DEP already approved, we're just modifying it to clarify exactly everything. So that's my ask.
Yeah, but before we go there, remember, we did have those meetings a year ago, and I was for you. I wanted to make sure everything happened, but you're not doing what you agreed to. You promised that Sandy would be there to approve who the contractor was doing this work. That didn't happen. You said you would do that.
We did.
You also waited. You also waited 11 months.
We did submit that in, just of Sammy Acker and Pikeland Construction. That was clearly submitted in. There was
Sandy approved that contractor. That's not what I was told.
My understanding is that that was all done, and there was numerous conversations between Sammy Acker directly, Charlie Doley of Pikeland, and I know that Joan was copied on all those emails that were sent in identifying that. I wasn't part of those conversations, but we clearly did that, and that was the reason that we had the meeting out there with the contractors out there and invited everyone, so that not only would everybody approve, and we use people that Sandy work with, but that we could physically say, this is the equipment, this is where it goes. This is how we're going to mow the field.
I'm sorry, may I jump in briefly? Just to clarify the history a little bit, and I don't want to speak for Sandy, but she and I have communicated in the course of the past couple of days, and And both she and I were very much surprised to find out after 5 p.m. yesterday that the clearing had gone in and been mostly completed. That was not anything that Sandy had been informed of. That's not anything that I had been informed of. And you know, I don't want to take an adversarial bent on it, but just as a point of fact, neither AECOM nor the township was informed until about 5 p.m. after most of the work was done, which I'm not sure necessarily syncs with an idea of open communication.
I don't believe that's accurate. I know that that Sandy was informed both email, and Bill Briegel called her multiple times and did not get a return phone call informing her of this. And we had also, when we had the site meeting, it went after. I didn't make the phone calls, but Bill's a pretty straight honest guy.
Emails work pretty easy to say, hey, we're going out there.
Well,
yeah, the idea is she was supposed to approve it, not just to be informed that it's happening. She was supposed to approve the contractor. She was supposed to be on site when it happened. That's what we agreed to. In addition to the developer's agreement would be signed within. My God, it's been a year that's been going back and forth. So it's hard to get trust when your guys aren't doing what you said you're going to do.
She refused to meet with us. We have multiple emails, and Joan, you can verify this, where we asked multiple times to meet with her and come out. There was a long email train where we asked. We actually attended the meeting and didn't realize that she wasn't going to show up until I was already there. I mean, is that true, Joan? Am I representing that correctly?
I made everyone aware of the meeting that you were holding, and because the agreement was not executed, you know, that the conditions were not met, the consultants and our solicitor advised us not to attend the meeting.
That was one of the conditions that the board had approved a year ago, was that the agreement be in place. And that is an ultimate concern of the townships, because once we start marching down the road, if we don't have it in writing on how this will proceed, then we had obviously have a lot of concern about, you know, Franklin isn't a large township, and to take on the financial obligation such as this is a serious matter. So we wanted to have this in place. We didn't have it in place. I know Sandy had quite a bit of trepidation allowing it to move forward without that. And I certainly did let your counsel know. I don't communicate with you directly. I only communicate with Greg Edelman. And like I said, I have no problem sitting down with a Zoom meeting with him and you and, you know, Sandy and Stan, and trying to iron out these issues, because ultimately they're going to need to be ironed out if that is what you're looking for. But right now,
yeah,
I don't have any indication that that's the case.
So I think that's all we're asking for at this point is, and if one of the supervisors wants to attend, I think that will help, because really the biggest part of this was getting the system, and truly Fred designed a better system. It's a lower maintenance, lower cost to maintain over a long period of time. And you were a part of that. This whole group was a part of designing that. And we're finally through all of that. We just need to have that same workshop. So Mark, if what you just said, let's start there. Let's get a workshop, but we would like to do that as soon as possible. And that's several of the emails that we sent. And I tried over the past 2 months to have my assistant set up a Zoom call to get everybody on the same Zoom call. But if we can set a Zoom call up in the next week to 10 days with you, Sandy,
that's fine.
Stan, and if one of the supervisors or two of the supervisors want to join that would be great. We're just trying to keep it moving forward with the same inertia that we had on the actual system itself, because we have DEP's blessing. We have that's done, and it's a much better system than it was in the past. So if you're okay with that, that's what we would like to. I'll have someone send out a meeting request to try to set up a Zoom meeting in the next week to 10 days.
What I think we should be doing as the next step is getting the lawyers together and Stan and Sandy. I don't think you need Board of Supervisors, but you guys need to get together and get this developers agreement ironed out. And nothing should be done in those fields until that agreement's ironed out. That's what you got to get done first. And I don't care how long you meet or where you meet, but you need to put some effort into it and don't leave the room until it's done.
It's not
Yeah,
getting.
I agree. And until that happens, I'm not comfortable doing anything until our lawyers and Stan and Sandy say, yes, this township, our job is to represent the township residents and to make sure we're not stuck with something that could literally sink the township financially.
Yeah, well, that's our goal as well, and we'll get a meeting set up as soon as possible, and we'll start with a minimum of Mark and Sandy, and if anybody else wants to join, we'll send those invitations out, but that's up to you if you want to join. But our goal is to not leave the meeting until the agreement is signed as well.
Jeff, I'll do whatever I can to get this done. I mean, I'll put it on the front burner. I haven't heard anything from Greg, really as far as feedback goes. And I mean,
yeah,
you guys put it on the front burner. We'll do whatever we need to do.
Okay.
But there's there's another item that needs to be agreed. There's no work on these fields until this development agreement's done, and then you got to get Sandy's okay, because that's what you agreed to previously. So if that's going to put a little bit of fire under you, you can't touch those fields. Leave them alone. Not until you get this agreement done, until you get Sandy on board. And that's not an email to Sandy saying we're showing up. It's you get Sandy to agree that she's going to be there.
I understand, Donna. What I guess I would ask it a slightly different way. I'm a dairy farmer from a long time ago, and the seasons change. In about 2 weeks, we're going to lose our ability to plant the grass that we need to plant. So the only thing I would ask is if we get Sandy's blessing in writing to plant grass, even though we're still working through the finer points in the agreement, we will meet. But if we can get agreement to at least plant the grass from Sandy in writing, is that something we could at least discuss?
And
if we could ask Stan what's involved in planting the grass.
Yeah, there is the crop establishment plan, as Fred alluded to earlier, and he also, as he noted, I was at the site earlier, and I think my observation is the contractor probably did their best job to comply with crop establishment plan. The vegetation has grown up a lot since that plan was established. Trees were a lot bigger. All of the vegetation was a lot larger. So there were some things that were done a little bit different than the plan. I'm not sure that that's necessarily an issue. We'd like to look at it a little bit more. But as far as moving forward with with any plantings, I think we would need to stay in sync. I would like to follow up perhaps with Fred or somebody and have a little bit more discussion about that.
Yeah.
And ideally perhaps include Mr. Acker in that discussion as well, if the board wanted to go down that path. Sandy is going to be generally unavailable for roughly the next 3 weeks or so on vacation, but as far as moving forward with any plannings out there, if that's something the board wants to consider, I can cover that on behalf of AECOM without a problem.
Okay.
If you're confident, Stan, I'm fine with that. I want you're there to represent us and making sure that we get the best setup that we can get. So if you're comfortable, I can support that. It's just me. It's only one of us, but I will support that. Mary, should we vote or just get a sense from the rest of the board if they would be okay with that?
Certainly. Nancy, how do you feel about this? Nancy? She's muted. How about you, Dave?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
Well,
Nancy.
I feel like this is just a rush, and I don't think that, the best time to plant is fall. So I don't think there's a short window here. We've got a couple months.
No.
I just, I'll let Stan guide us and Mark, but I think it's very dangerous for us to do anything until the plan is fully agreed. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
I guess if the board were inclined to consider, and if I could just interject, the provision in the agreement or at least in the review letter from Stan, would suggest that no site work commence until an agreement is executed between the township and developer, securing the agreement to construct and fund the proposed disposal facilities, and that the township approve the scope of work for the project and approve the developer's site improvement contractor for any proposed drip field construction work done before the issuance or after the issuance of a permit, and that the developer provide notice to the township. This is, again, maybe it's a little bit late, that allowing the township's site contractor to inspect any work conducted by their contractor for any proposed drip fields. And I think what I'm hearing is Stan is doing that right now.
And I don't think this precludes planting grass. I mean, I think if he can manage it, I don't think what you just read precludes them planting grass.
Yeah, that was a little, was quite somewhat of an issue of contention concerning what constituted site work, whether planting grass was in fact site work. I mean, I guess it's a gray issue. But again, before they started marching down the path, we wanted to make sure that, we were all comfortable with all the necessary protections being in place. So if the board wanted to approve this permit, then at a minimum, I would, make a motion that would include those three elements at a minimum.
I'm not on that. I think that I don't think that gets moved forward until we get an agreement. I'm not prepared to vote. I'll vote no.
Yeah, I'm aligned with Donna on this thing. I think the concern that we have here is that we've been working on this developer agreement for quite some time. And I know that Mark and your attorney, Mr. Edelman, have been working diligently to try to resolve this. And I'm not sure what the progress is. And we expected that this was ongoing and it would be resolved. And then the next thing we find that somebody's in the field doing some unauthorized work. It's a fundamental violation of trust. And it makes me, it generates a concern from me going down the line here that we're going to get rolled over for one concession after another. So that's my concern. We certainly have had issues in the past with compliance to township requirements. Some are smaller issues, but they indicate a particular attitude and behavior that bothers me. So I'm along with Donna here. I'm not ready to go ahead with this until we get agreement, a developer agreement signed. Certainly considering the changes, the scope of the changes that are proposed, they're not minor. These are major changes in the agreement.
Well, I think not approving it would not, doesn't preclude us from continuing to work on the issue. So, I mean, that's certainly, if that's the consensus of the board, that's certainly, I don't think that's a problem. Stan, are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
Stan, you said that they could plant the grass. I think the grass is a different situation. Stan, could you manage that? I want to be clear. I'm not prepared to support putting in the permit, and I'm not prepared to, because that just gives them free rein. But I would be supportive if Stan was supportive of saying, you guys go off the next week. You got 10 days. Get this agreement done. And then the one concession we could give is work with them to plant the grass, but nothing else. Is that something we could manage, Stan?
Well, I think backing up a little bit to the planning part, I think we could, in short order, have some productive discussions to clarify whether or not we're all on that same page. I'm not prepared to say we are right now because the work was done without our presence, and there needs to be more communication on that. So I think we can start that communication very quickly and perhaps move forward on it. And that's all I can confidently say right now.
So I'm very clear that I will not vote for it until we do have an agreement. And I want Stan and Sandy and Mark to be comfortable with that. So I'm a no if we vote.
Stan, I've got a technical concern here related to the field itself. And we know that this project is land critical, meaning that there's really just enough land here to support this particular plant operation. So any miscues or something that would degrade the capacity of the fields would be a serious issue, and it could limit the number of houses that could be built in there. So I'm asking for some assurance that if you let them plant the grass, that they're not doing any damage, because I could see us later on negotiating some other some other reduction in the number of houses, or trying to maintain the same number of houses with a potentially deficient field. Sorry, I didn't say that well at first, but that's the concern here, that we don't do anything technically that will degrade this field. Then we have to reduce the number of houses, and then we get a negotiation on the reduction in the field and maintaining the same number of houses.
And John, you make a good point, and that's I think why the clearing and the crop establishment is so critical. It's not simply mowing, as we discussed previously. There's a crop establishment plan. That crop establishment plan has a lot of details about how that mowing happens, and it as I said, it's a lot more complicated than just saying mowing. Near as I could tell, the work appeared to have been done generally compliant with that plan. If I'd like to follow up, if the board wanted to consider that, follow up with the contractor and perhaps Ebert and take a look at it and discuss it a little bit further. And if it can be completed moving forward for the fall planting schedule, which is one of the options specified in the crop establishment plan. John, I don't think at this point there would be any deleterious effect to the drip fields. There is generally some benefit to having a crop established in the fall. We get one growing season in, we then get another growing season going in the spring, when presumably we might be moving towards a point where the drip fields could actually be constructed.
Okay. Dave, do you want to weigh in on this one?
I think I'm in general agreement with the rest of the board here. I think that we need to stick with our original plan. I don't really have anything else to add here. I feel like we should engage our attorneys and our experts, have them work it out before we approve any further work on the site.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I also agree with comments by Donna, Nancy, and John. You've been at this a lot longer than we have. I want the experts to tell me, and our attorneys to get together, and your attorneys, before I approve anything. I think what you did to go ahead and mow, I don't think that was a very good move, and it puts a feeling of distrust. So I think we need to take a step back, let the experts do what they do, and then if you can get it done in time for your fall planting, your grass, then we can talk about it then, but not now. We're not at that point yet. That's it. So
Jeff, I think you've heard the consensus of the board. Again, Stan and I are ready to meet with you and Greg and Fred to try to see if we can come to an agreement in an expeditious way.
So when is the next meeting? When's the next board meeting?
We've discussed multiple meetings here, and this may not directly be your question, Jeff, but I think step one is trying to figure out what we're doing with fields, with the clearing, with any planting. I would suggest, and Fred, I don't know if you're available for a phone call tomorrow morning. Perhaps we could start by you and I talking and figuring out where we're going from here.
Absolutely. And I can give you all the history from last year. I'm sure Sandy has, of when we went through Lowry Hepner, we got it approved, we worked through that plan. I think there's a good email training that I can give you to get you up to speed, but I'm sure Sandy has kept you well in the loop as well.
I believe I've got all that information, but thank you anyway.
Yeah, definitely tomorrow.
So I guess one point of clarity that I'd like to ask of the board, we discussed potential for verifying whether or not it's okay to move forward with the planning out there. If we evaluate everything and if in our opinion, it does appear to be feasible for them to go ahead and move forward, is it acceptable for the board for us to go ahead and give them that authorization? Because there wouldn't be enough time between now and a follow-up meeting for them to move forward as quickly as they need to.
I think one thing that could be done, and I'll offer this, I don't know what the rest of the board would think about it, but we could have a special meeting if the consultants would come together and the developer agreement was developed to the satisfaction of our attorney and the consultants. I would expect that we could have a special meeting and approve it. I don't see the advantage of two board members sitting in a meeting because they can't decide anything. So you really need a quorum or a full, and certainly in this case, a full board to hear the story and vote on it. So I don't know how much trouble it is to have a special meeting. I think we've only done that once in the 9 years I've been on the board, but Mark, what's the procedure for a special meeting? How quickly could that be done if these agreements and things were pulled together?
John, a special meeting is a simple Sunshine Act issue, very easy to pull that together. Certainly not a problem from our perspective. Again, not difficult at all. I mean, with now the Zoom technology, we don't have to worry about the facility. We can have a public meeting very quickly.
How much do you have to advertise? How much notice do you have to
24
give the
hours
public?
in advance, 24 hours, Donna.
That's what I thought.
So I agree with John. I think we should come back. Your lawyer you would be there, Mark. You would tell us if you're okay with where the agreement's at. Stan would come to that meeting and tell us where he's at, and if you make a recommendation for us to approve it, then we approve it. If you say no, we'll talk about it.
That sounds good.
I think that's a good way.
I think that's a good idea, John. We'll do everything we can to get a Zoom call set up. If Sandy's away, Stan will get you, Mark, Fred, and Bill Briegel from our team on a Zoom call in the next couple of days, and then hopefully we can have something ready. If you're willing to have a special meeting sometime, maybe in say 2 weeks, that would potentially give us still enough time to get this fall planning in. Fred, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, you're on mute.
Absolutely. I really appreciate this. This is exactly what we need. And just so the board knows, Sandy has approved these plans and these revisions. There's been a lot of going back and forth, and you had a recommendation tonight to move this forward. We understand why you don't want to, but I just want the board to understand from a technical engineering aspect, we've completed that. We're right. There's nothing else we can do from a technical engineering. We're down to a legal agreement and the financing of it. That's really what's the holdup with the agreement. I think AECom, Ebert Engineering, we're there, and you got that written recommendation from Sandy. This is great. What we wanted to do tonight, and the reason we came here, was open the doors of communication, just to make sure that, and the board knew that we were opening the doors, and also to explain what we did. We want to be open and honest with this. It's the only way it's going to work. So I appreciate that, and I will call Stan tomorrow, talk about the crop management plan, and then we'll get an arrangement to get as close as we can on the agreement and then have a special meeting. I don't think we're going to get 100% there. I think it's going to need some board input. Just my honest opinion, but hopefully we can get close.
I'm reaching out to you and giving you an opportunity to pull this thing together, and hopefully you can. So,
thank you. We appreciate that. I'll be sending out a meeting request 6:15 tomorrow morning.
And minor point, just for the board's clarification, I don't disagree with what Fred said, but while we are fine with the permit amendment application, there are still some final design matters that still need to be resolved. I've no indication they won't be resolved, but I just didn't want the board to get the understanding that all the engineering was completely wrapped up.
Sandy was very clear that her approval was for the permit submission, not that the whole project was done, and that more work is needed.
Okay. All right. So Mark, do we just table this motion until?
Would table the motion, correct? Yeah, the
Okay.
board's not taking any action for this
All
evening.
right. And we'll wait to hear back from you, Mark, and
Yes,
Sandy
yes.
and everybody else. All right. Thank you, everybody.
So the board should be on call for a special meeting when the consultant or attorney pull this together for us.
Yeah. With that 24 hours, that shouldn't be a problem.
Thanks, everyone.
Right, let's just let things play out. I mean, obviously we will do what we need to do, but we're not making any promises. Just let this play out and see where you get to.
Okay. Thank you,
very
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna, can you take the next item on the agenda?
Sure, Mary, I hope it's easier than the
Are you
rest
still
of them were.
okay?
Donna, before you start, please, I don't know if you received my email. This motion says to approve the July 15th, and it should be June 17th.
Correct, right.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
I made that correction.
Okay.
So, Mary, do you want to make a comment about minutes? So Mary and I have been working on a better way that we can work together on minutes so this does not become a contentious issue. So we had a great meeting last Friday, and I'm hoping we can make this relatively simple. So I'll start off by making a motion that the board approve the June 17th minutes as revised. Do I have a second for that?
I will second that. And
Go ahead.
And I just want to comment that the reason we're going back to the June 17th minutes is this is how the meeting Donna and I had, this is how we decided the board would go forward and how we write our minutes. Not absolutely bare bones with a little bit of comment, no finger pointing, no politics, nothing like that. And we did have a great meeting. And so that's why we agreed to go back. The June 17th minutes were bare bones, but we put comments back in, and all that is in your meeting books if you want to look at it, So if anybody else have anything to say on these minutes, are you fine with them the way Donna and I are going to?
I'm satisfied with it. I
Okay.
commend Mary and Donna for really doing this job. This is really difficult stuff. So I I depended on you, and I think both of you did an excellent job. So I'm very pleased with it, and I'll support it.
Well, thanks, John. And we were actually nice to each other too. It was wonderful.
Oh, we like each other, Mary. I
We
like
do.
working.
We do. All right. If there's no more discussion, can we take a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Take the next one, Donna, I guess.
Okay, so now we get to do the routine minutes. So this is the ones from the last meeting. So I make a motion that the board approve the August 19th, 2020 minutes as
I'll
submitted.
second that.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Yay.
Yay.
Okay, go ahead. I think it's you, Nancy.
We still have.
Nancy's on mute.
Well, okay, I'm going to take it. I guess Nancy. Oh, here's. Is she coming?
Sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, proposed motions. I was just trying to get to this thing. So I think this is the last one too, isn't it? I make a motion that the board adopt resolution 2020-19 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meeting of August 19th, 2020. Seconded by.
I'll second that.
Donna.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, now we've reached the public comment. Does anyone in the public have a comment to make of anything that was not on the agenda tonight?
Hi, this is Zach Elwin.
Hi,
I am
Zach.
Township President. And I just have a question for the board, and it's a contentious topic, potentially, but I'm trying to make it not so. I live on Gypsy Hill Road, and last week, starting on it was a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, starting around 8:30 at night and going till about 11 o'clock at night, one of my neighbors, not exactly sure who it is, but one of my neighbors decided that it was the appropriate time to start blowing stuff up with shotguns in their yard.
Oh.
10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. I actually thought someone was getting killed because, I mean, and I'm not particularly near anyone. My nearest neighbor is actually, a good couple hundred feet away. I actually called John Gontars, who lives down the hill from me, because the sound was coming from that direction, because I was actually concerned that I don't know, something was being exploding. My question is, and I'm not trying to make this about weapons and guns because it really has nothing to do with that. My question is there some sort of noise ordinance in the town where if someone is just making, I mean, for me to, for my whole house was rattling from the sound of these shots. Apparently this person likes going out and shooting at targets that actually then explode. Is there some sort of noise ordinance that can address, you know, someone out at 10 o'clock at night on a weeknight blowing shit up? That's my question.
Okay, Zach, Joan is shaking her head no, that we don't have an ordinance. And Joan is recommending, if that happens, to call the police. Do you know who did it?
Well, John does. John has some sort of relationship with his neighbor. And I don't like, I'm going to call the Pennsylvania State Police.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, what, someone's shooting off fireworks? They're not going to come out. I mean, I'm advised that it was someone shooting shotguns in their yard. But I mean, this went on at a fairly furious clip for a solid hour. And again, to the point where I was concerned that someone was getting in a gunfight.
My suggestion to you is, Zach, is to call the Avondale State Police Barracks and speak with Trooper Koshka.
Okay.
About this. And I do believe he will take it seriously. I've spoken to him in the past about other issues, and he highly encourages residents to call the barracks if they think something is wrong or something's dangerous going on.
I mean, and look, I'm not, again, I'm not trying to make this about weapons. I don't care what the source of the noise was, but it seriously did sound like someone was, I don't know, blowing things up. And to the point, like, and from what I can tell, the house where this was happening is across the street from John, and John has some sort of conflict with this person, so he's aware of the person. But it just, for it to make the amount of noise that it did at that distance, I can't imagine what the hell he was shooting off. But okay.
Well, Zach, I definitely do what Jeff is recommending, call the state police, because you're obviously upset about it. It sounds like any one of us would have been if we were in your house that night. Just neighbors don't do that to each other. So yeah, I'd like you to follow it up with the police, and then maybe let us know how you make out.
Zach, a point of information on noise. Noise. The reason we don't have a noise regulation is noise is extremely difficult to measure and quantify.
Understood.
Requires all kinds of sophisticated engineering measurements. So really the only approach to this thing is to try to control the behavior, not the noise. Just almost intractable to be able to measure it and quantify it.
I mean, look, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. I don't know their name. John.
I'd rather not know in the public meeting. You could tell me some other time, but not in this meeting.
And it just, apparently this person just like, and this is not the first time this has happened. I've never, ever heard it so loud that it actually raised concerns, again, that someone was getting murdered.
Yeah, I don't dispute your claim in any way at all. I just wanted to tell you that noise isn't the way to manage it. You've got to manage the behavior somehow.
Okay, thank you.
Reach out specifically to Trooper Koshka, and if need be, leave a message for him specifically.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Are there any more public comments? Okay. If no one else has a comment, this meeting is adjourned at 9:26. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, Mary.